Now, Russia and China are renewing plans to build a major new gas pipeline during President Putin's visit to Beijing. The Kremlin says Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping reached a basic agreement on the project, including on the route and construction plans, though officials say there is still no clear timeline. The move comes as Moscow grows increasingly reliant on China to buy its gas and help prop up Russia's economy during the war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the UK government is facing criticism over its decision to loosen strict sanctions on Russian oil refined into diesel and jet fuel in third countries as prices rise. Officials say the move is a necessary response to the impact of the Iran war on global energy supplies. Well, we can speak now to Dr. Aura Sabadus, an energy expert for the Independent Commodity Intelligence Services. Good to see you this morning. Look, let's start with this deal that we've had, or this understanding that's been reached between Russia and China. Would this have happened without the conflict in Iran? Is that the sort of impetus that's changing long-term decisions here?
Hello and good morning and good afternoon to your listeners. To be honest, I was expecting a lot more enthusiasm about this project, but when I read the statement, it felt a bit like a damn squib, because I was expecting the stars to align on this long-delayed project, the Power of Siberia 2, which is a project that has been discussed for at least 20 years, and which aimed to bring around 50 billion cubic meters of gas from the Arctic region of Russia down to China. As you correctly said, a discussion was held last year, and a memorandum was agreed for the potential construction of this pipeline, but key issues were not agreed on at the time. And these issues related to pricing and to volumes. And personally, I was expecting to see more details related to these two. First of all, the Russians were expecting to get prices closer to the sort of prices that they were getting from the European markets, and on the other hand, the Chinese were expecting prices closer to the Chinese market. But this hasn't happened. At least we haven't heard anything yet.
So in other words, it sounds like sort of both sides playing hardball here. Is that why you think there's this caution?
It's very difficult to say, because both sides are in a position now to negotiate and to reach some compromise for a couple of reasons. China had depended on Qatar for about a third of its LNG imports. Now, as we know, with Qatar no longer exporting, that portion of LNG has gone, and we were expecting to see some movement potentially on this project to allow China to import more gas from elsewhere. Russia, on the other hand, is in an even deeper trouble, because Russia has lost its gas market in Europe. And it's now facing the loss of a big market. So it was expecting to replace that with China, but it hasn't happened. So I expect here a couple of issues might have happened, or a couple of reasons. Number one, either both sides expect a fast resolution to the Hormuz crisis, which means that at some point later this year, the situation will start to get back to normal, though that will happen relatively slowly. Secondly, they were not prepared to reach a compromise, even now in the current shifting geopolitical environment. And thirdly, and this is even more interestingly, China may be looking to return to US LNG. And very interestingly, we're actually seeing some LNG shipments coming from or heading from the US to China.
And very briefly, if I could just interrupt, if I could jump in here very briefly, how significant is the US waiver on Russian oil exports and that UK announcement as well?
Well, from a political point of view, it actually sends an awkward message, particularly a message related to Western coordination with regards to sanctions. Because let's not forget, the UK was the biggest cheerleader for Ukraine. It was one of the countries the first countries to introduce sanctions against Russian coal, gas, LNG, and oil. And now, by refusing to close a loophole in this import of refined products made from Russian oil, it sends an awkward message, as I said, and Russia could speculate that to undermine Western credibility and unity.
Awkward message. We'll leave it there. Dr. Aura Sabadas, energy expert for the Independent Commodity Intelligence Services. Thank you very much for joining us.